Welcome to GardenDC, the podcast about everything gardening in the Washington, D.C. and Mid-Atlantic region. I'm your host, Kathy Jentz. I'm the editor of Washington Gardener magazine, and we're aimed at gardening enthusiasts, people who grow everything from edibles to ornamentals, natives to exotics. If it grows in our area, that's what we talk about. Welcome to episode 159 of the GardenDC podcast. In this episode, we chat with Kimani Anku, founder of Gardening and Beats, about making herbal mocktails, cocktails, and other garden-inspired libations. The plant profile is on Shasta Daisy, and we share what's going on in the garden as well as some upcoming local gardening events in the What's New segment. We close out with garden designer and host of Better Lawns and Gardens, Teresa Watkins, who shares the last word on growing houseplants anywhere. This episode, we're joined by Kimani Anku. He is the founder of Gardening and Beats. Welcome, Kimani.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's great to have you with us finally so we can talk mocktails and cocktails and other concoctions in this hot summer weather. So this will be a nice, refreshing episode.
Yes. And I'm ready.
All right. So before we dive into all those libations and recipes, let's talk a little bit about you and your background. So we recently profiled you in Washington Gardener magazine in the July 2023 issue. And so people can read a bit more about that. But for those listeners who want to learn about you on the recording, let's dial it back all the way to baby Kimani and ask if you were born with chlorophyll in your veins and or a green thumb.
I would say I was probably born with chlorophyll in my veins. I just didn't know it
Mm.
until later on in life.
Hmm.
Yeah. Hmm.
So did you have other gardeners in your household or your family that you were gardening with, or did you come to it later?
I came to it later, but then my mom was my hero. She's my gardening hero. But my grandparents were gardeners and farmers. My great grandmother owned a peanut farm in North Carolina, and then my grandfather was also a farmer and gardener. And so my parents they didn't live in Maryland at first, but then they traveled to Maryland. And when they traveled to Maryland, because they were like gardeners and farmers too. They decided that they was going to get a corporate job when they came to Maryland, and so the whole gardening and farming thing kind of like went out the window. So they really didn't teach us anything until later on in life because they wanted this corporate job away from gardening and farming because that's all they did all their lives.
Mm. Yeah, I noticed that a lot in people's generational families is that it might skip, um, a generation or once you get away from the agricultural background, and then you kind of lose some of that memory and what was passed down in the family.
Yes, I agree
Mm.
totally.
Were you able to visit your grandmother and help her at her farm?
Well, it was my great grandmother.
Oh,
My
great
great
grandmother.
my
Hmm.
great grandmother. Yeah, we did. But so this is a crazy story, and this might sound funny. So my great grandmother lived until she was about 117. So when
Wow.
I was really young, we would travel down to her home in North Carolina, and I was scared of her because she was old then. So my siblings would want to stay, but I was supposed to stay, and so every time I would come, I would be like out in the fields with the peanuts, and picking the peanuts and other vegetables that she was growing, and so I was always looking to see if my parents was leaving, and I just kept an eye on it. I stayed close to the home, and so when I saw them leaving, I got up and ran, and I was like, I'm not staying down here. Not with this lady. She's old. you know, and it was just crazy. So yeah, we would go all the time. Every summer we would go and visit her. And like I said, she had a big peanut farm. we actually still own the property, and that property was built in like 1800s
Mm,
sometime, and it's a historical site now, and so the state maintains it, but we also still have a part in the property, so we can't sell it to any commercial real estate. But if we wanted to grow on there, we could grow on it. Right now, my cousin is in charge of it right now, but they looking to wield it to me because I'm such a farmer and gardener now.
yeah, and that would be a great legacy to pass on to have that land.
Yes.
Mm. So, what are you growing in Maryland, and can you describe your garden and your gardening conditions?
What I'm growing in Maryland. So my garden is kind of like it's different, so to speak, because it is in my backyard. I consider myself a homesteader now, but my garden sits around the perimeter of my yard instead of most folks have like garden that's separated out, but mine's kind of sit around the perimeter of my backyard. So I have about 10 or 12 garden boxes that go around the perimeter of the space, and I'm growing everything from well, it's summertime right now. Um, Tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, all your good summer vegetables, watermelons, cantaloupes. I'm actually also growing pomegranates here in Maryland, so I'm really excited about that. It was a lot on there early on, but I think the rain, because it's been raining so bad here in Maryland, that a couple of them got knocked off,
Hmm.
but there's still like 5 or 6 left, and I'm so excited. I go out every day and check them, make sure that nothing has knocked them down. I got some netting bags over them now. And then I also grow in the fall and the winter. Like I grow all year long now. And then in the winter I'm growing like my greens and my kale, my cauliflower, and broccoli and things of that nature. So
Hmm.
I'm really excited. I do have several fruit trees too. I have a peach tree, plums, several plums. I have a persimmon tree. Also, I'll have an Asian pear tree, not a regular pear tree, but an Asian pear tree, and I really love that.
Hmm.
Cherries, tart cherries. I have tart cherries, and then I have something called an Arkansas black apple tree, which is an apple that almost appears to be black, and I'm really excited about that one too.
Hmm. Yeah, I've tasted at heirloom apple tasting the Arkansas Black, and it's beautiful and tasty. So good.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I agree.
hmm
Last year the squirrels did get to them, but this year I'm ready. I've
good.
been
Well, that's why I was happy to hear about your pomegranate that you have put netting around your last few ones so you can at least get those before the creatures do.
yes,
That would be nice. And so you're probably zone 7, almost leaning on zone 8. I do know some people in downtown Washington and in Northern Virginia who have small pomegranate trees, and they're able to get some fruit at the end of the season too.
yes. I believe it's zone 7B or something like
Hmm.
that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for most of our area, unless you're at a higher elevation or closer to the water. So let's turn now to the topic of our episode, which is on mocktails and cocktails and other drinks from the garden. And so I'll start off by asking what your favorite thing to drink in the summer to cool off.
It will be lemonade,
Hmm.
but since we're talking about herbs and mocktails, I would say a lavender lemonade.
Hmm. And do you grow a lot of herbs in your own garden?
I do grow a lot of herbs, so that's one of the reasons I decided to create a herbal mocktail book because I have so many different herbs
Hmm.
in the yard. But lavender is really one of my strongest that I can grow. I have probably like several lavender plants in the yard. One and they repel mosquitoes, so that's why I chose to put a lot of herbs in the
Hmm.
yard.
Yeah, and I think it's a classic combination, the flavor of lemon with lavender together. It's always nice and refreshing.
Yes, very
And
good.
yeah, so that would be on the mocktail side. If you wanted to make it a cocktail, and probably any of the combinations we talk about today, If you want to make them a cocktail or spike them, you could probably add either like a little bit of rum or a little bit of vodka or a little bit of gin, depending on your taste.
I will probably do gin with the lavender lemonade.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that would be a good combination. Although I'm kind of partial to rum myself.
Yeah, maybe rum too. Definitely not vodka. I'm not a vodka person. But either gin or rum will probably go good with those.
hmm There are some flavored vodkas that you could experiment with, like a vanilla vodka or, some that have been infused. But yeah, for a clean taste, I agree.
Yes.
Hmm. And so, what's another combination that you're looking at for mocktail this season?
So I am creating, well, I have created a mocktail ebook, and so I have several drinks in there, but one of my favorites, I think my new favorite, is thyme and blackberry mixed together with like a sparkling water or soda
Hmm.
water in it. I use thyme syrup instead of the blackberries as a syrup. I make a syrup with the thyme, and then I infuse it with the blackberry juice, and then put some sparkling water on there. And you can't have a mocktail or cocktail without a cherry on the top. So I always put a cherry on the top.
Or you could, yeah, I was going to say you could garnish with a blackberry too.
Yeah, well, blackberry and a cherry.
Hmm.
People gotta see the cherry on there. But one of the unique things about my herbal mocktail drink is I'm putting liquid collagen in it. Um, and people are really surprised because they don't really taste the liquid collagen. But
Hmm.
I am putting liquid collagen in all my drinks, and when the book come out, that's what's gonna be in it. The secret ingredient is liquid collagen.
Does that change the texture at all since it's not changing the taste?
No, it does not change
Hmm.
the texture of it at all because it's a really water-based collagen,
Hmm.
and so it's pretty good, you know.
And are you adding that for protein, or why do you like to add that to yours?
For skin, as we get older, our skin starts to sag and do things and wrinkle. So I'm thinking, oh, this is an instant Botox and a cocktail mocktail drink that nobody knows. They just drinking it, and all of a sudden their skin is just gonna get tighter. And especially if you're losing weight, you want to make sure that you taking your liquid collagen so that the skin won't, sag and it just tighten up. It's good for your hair. It's good for your skin, your eyes,
Hmm. And nails.
and nails.
Yep. I always say that if I had one superpower that I know of, which is a talent for growing long fingernails. So
Yeah,
I've never needed extra collagen or protein or anything for that, but yeah, this will probably make them super strong.
super strong. Yeah, and so a lot of my business, gardening and beat, revolves around women. So I was like, let me take advantage of this. Women want to look good. They want to have healthy nails, like you said. They want radiant skin. You know what I'm saying? They want long hair. So why not put some
Mhm.
liquid collagen in it? And as a guy, we gotta start taking care of ourselves too. You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
so I have a really strong skin regimen that everything comes from the garden, everything comes from the yard, and so I create those skincare products as well, and then I use them and test them out on
Hmm.
me.
Yeah, self-care is important, especially for gardeners who get exposed to a lot of the weather and the sun, and it could be really drying out there.
Yes.
Hmm. And so you were talking about in your blackberry, is it thyme, that you were making a syrup with the thyme. So for those listeners who have never made a simple syrup before, and I'm going to say, don't ever buy simple syrup in a bottle again. This is so easy, right? Anybody can make a simple syrup.
Yes, definitely. I like you said, I agree with you. Don't buy simple syrup. Just go and make your own, and then infuse it with whatever you're growing in your yard. If you're a gardener, right? And if you're not a gardener, go to the store or ask one of your neighbors who's growing an herb garden. Give me some of that rosemary, and let me make a simple syrup with that rosemary. A couple twigs of rosemary, 1 cup of sugar, whatever type of sugar you like to use, and then boil it down, and there your simple syrup.
Hmm. So usually it's a 1-to-1 ratio, like 1 cup sugar, 1 cup water.
Yeah.
and then you just simmer it at a low boil for a little bit with whatever herb you want to infuse in it, and then you're going to take that twig out. Like you're not going to
Yes.
serve it with the rosemary twig in there.
No.
I mean, you could, but
You
yeah,
could, but no, definitely
no.
take the rosemary twig out
Hmm.
and all the time out and strain it, so you can have that simple syrup.
Hmm.
Um,
And then you can put it, usually I say 2 weeks in a, once you let it cool in a jar, put it in the refrigerator. Most books will say 2 weeks to use it, but I find it lasts a little bit longer than that.
yeah, if you put it in the fridge, it lasts longer. What I like to do is as well is I have this mold. It's like a shot glass mold, and I
Hmm.
put it in there and freeze it. And then when you want a little drink or something or a mocktail or cocktail, you get the shot glass and it's made of that simple syrup and it's you pour it in there and boom, you have a little nice little drink
Hmm.
on a hot day.
Yeah, that's a great idea for any mocktail or cocktail is to have flavored ice that's not just watered down,
Hmm.
watering your drink. So if you put a little bit of the simple syrup or another herb maybe in the ice, that way you're adding more flavor and not, adding a lot more water to the drink.
And then, like I said, my followers and my business, mostly women. So I put the flowers in there too, the edible flowers in the ice. And that's a game changer right there.
Hmm. Yeah, I like to do borage, like the little light blue flowers,
Mm-hmm.
and calendula. What other edible flowers do you like for drinks?
Nasturtiums,
Hmm.
the bright orange ones and the bright yellow ones. Yeah, I really like those. Oh, and then like the
Hmm.
lavender buds, and put that in.
Yeah, those are always pretty too. And they
Yeah.
keep their color. I think the borage sometimes will turn kind of black. Like it might not look as appetizing. With the little blue flowers can turn dark when they freeze in the ice, but still have a great flavor.
Yes. Hmm.
And I was going to say that's another great thing to garnish with are edible flowers to just either rest them on the top or put them on the straw or a skewer. Just really pretty on a cocktail.
Yeah, and like I said, the women really love that. And I tell some of my male friends, if you want to impress a lady, make her a cocktail with some flower ice. And they were like, "What?" And I was like, "I'll show you. I can show you." And and so I showed my male friends, and they was like, "That worked. That worked."
Kamani is dropping all the secrets for getting the ladies here. And I'm sure for a lady who wanted to serve a man or, same-sex partner as well, they would just be as appreciative.
Yes, I
Yep.
agree as well.
Hmm. So let's talk about another drink from the garden. What's next on your list?
My one of my favorites is a mint cucumber and honey
Hmm.
drink mixed together. And then you also add that sparkling water to it to give it that like fizz. So that's a hibiscus ginger sparkler, and it's hibiscus, honey, cucumber, and mint leaves all tied together.
Hmm. Yeah, mint is so popular that you can muddle it, kind of smush up the leaves in the bottom of a cup. But I'm going to drop one hint, Kamani. It's when I love mojitos, and when you go to a restaurant or a bar and order a mojito, and the bartender has shredded the mint leaves, and they come up in your straw. That's a no-no.
That's a no no.
No, nobody likes to have little tiny mint leaves in their teeth and stuck in the straw, so I'm like, just kinda crush them or muddle them if you're gonna leave the whole leaves in there, but yeah, don't make them
Yeah.
so tiny that they're gonna come up the straw for
Yeah,
people.
and it's embarrassing if you have like mint leaves stuck in between your teeth and nobody tell you and you up in someone's face just talking and then you go and you walk past a mirror or something, you be like, "Oh God, I got mint
Yeah,
all in my teeth."
yeah, that's why you can use a strainer, if you just wanna infuse the leaves in the simple syrup, or you just can use a strainer before you pour the cocktail over the ice, that helps too. But that hibiscus one sounds really good. Is that made with the hibiscus tea?
Yeah, well,
Mhm.
the plant actually I grow hibiscus,
Okay.
and then simmer that, and it becomes a tea, and then you fuse it all together.
Hmm. Yeah, because I've seen a lot of cocktails and mocktails used with a base of the hibiscus tea. So just using the tea bags themselves, for those people who can't source it from their own garden.
Yeah, and then you do the ginger will be the simple syrup. I'll make my own ginger simple syrup.
Hmm. Yeah, we recently had on the podcast Susan Belsinger talking about ginger and turmeric, and she also recommended a really refreshing ginger drink and making your own ginger simple syrup, and having that always on hand, whether it's wintertime or summertime.
Yes. I love making simple syrup because I got cherries in the yard. I make a cherry simple syrup. I have plums. I have even attempted to make a plum simple syrup. Not my favorite, but
Hmm.
I did
Yeah, I was gonna ask you
it.
about. I was like, I have never heard of a plum simple syrup. That might be a little bit of a light flavor, but I can imagine that the plum juice, like if you were to juice them and to add that to a cocktail, that might be nice.
Yes. So I have these, I think they're green, but they turn like a purple plum. I'm not sure the name of it, but they're really good. I did make a plum jam, but I said, "Oh, I'm gonna juice these or make a simple syrup with it and see what it was." Wasn't my favorite, but I get a kick out of seeing the birds in my yard eat the plums, um the ones that fall on the ground and that's very fermented
Hmm.
because they stumble out of the yard. They're like, that's crazy. I like to watch them. I have one of those bird houses that got a camera in it, and you can see them like bump up against the wall and stuff because they done ate the fermented plums.
That's true for a lot of the fruits that birds are attracted to. That once they start to get to that fermented stage, that's when they really like them. And berries too. Same
Oh
thing
yeah.
with the berries. So speaking of fermenting, do you do any drinks that are fermented?
I am working on a drink that's fermented. It's going to be a peach beer because my peach tree is so loaded this year. I'm going to make a peach beer. I have hops as well growing in the yard, so I'm going to get creative and ferment this and see what happens. But I did attempt to do a pineapple kombucha one year, and that was deadly.
Hmm. So let's for those who have never tried kombucha, it's mildly fermented but not alcoholic drink.
Yes,
So it's kind of between a soda and a flat juice. So you're kind
yes.
of going in between there. And is it fermented with yeast, or something is in there that's making it bubble for you? So it's a light fermentation.
Yeah, it was a light fermentation. I just didn't know when to open it, so I did a pineapple. A coworker gave me a mushroom to put in it because she creates her own kombucha, and I was like, I've been buying kombucha for so long. I was like, "Ooh, we can make this at home." And she's like, "Yeah, you can make it. I'll give you this mushroom starter, and you put it in the thing, and then you can infuse it with whatever fruit you like." And I love pineapples and strawberries, so I was like, I'm gonna do a pineapple. And I chopped this pineapple up, and I follow her rules and but she didn't tell me when to open it, so I left it for like almost a year.
Oh, wow.
And so
Wow.
when I went to open it, it literally blew up. And it was like only like maybe a half a cup left after it just exploded and it came out the jar. And I was like, wow, I'm never doing this again.
Hmm. Yeah, I hear mixed results with homemade kombucha. So once you get a batch started, though, I think you can keep using that as your starter batch, and add a little bit to another juice and keep that going.
So yeah, I'm gonna toy with this peach beer. All of a sudden, now that I've been mentioning I'm gonna make this peach beer, I've seen people now have peach beer they serving it, and I was like, oh, I need my credit for that.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of fruit beers that you see now. Aside from hard ciders that are being offered more and more, but the fruit infused beer flavors are becoming really popular.
So yeah, I have a lot of beer drinkers at my part-time job, so I was like, I'm gonna have some samples for you very soon.
And let's talk about the hops for a little bit. So hops vine, if somebody has never grown it, it can be a bit of a monster.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. So I went to one of the local grocery stores, right? And I saw it said hops. I didn't know what hops was at the time. It was $2, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get it and see what it does." It's only $2 if it dies, because it looked like it was dying already. I was
Mhm,
like, I didn't lose any money because it was $2. So I decided I'm gonna put it in the yard, right? I didn't research it. I didn't think about it. I just took it out the pot and put it in the ground. And it said it was gonna be viney, so I got a trellis, right? Maybe a 6 foot trellis. And then that year it didn't do anything. I was like, well, I guess it's dead. The next year it came back like a vengeance. It was
mhm.
like crazy. It done went over the 6 foot trellis. It was just everywhere. I have a 6 foot fence as well in my yard. It done went underneath the fence somehow and got into my neighbor's yard. It is like so crazy. So this past fall, when it got cold and it died back, um, I went out there and I kind of like dug up most of it where I can dig up, and put it in a pot to try to contain it because it was out of control.
Mhm. I think most times when I see it grown at like a brewery or somewhere, they have it on 20-foot trellises because they know this is going to be really tall. And it has kind of a prickly ness to the vine too. So I want to warn people out there that if they do grow it, think about like kind of not as prickly or jabby as a raspberry bush, but still not great to have your arm rub against it.
Oh
So you probably
yeah.
want to keep it a little bit separate from a pathway or something.
Yeah, because when I go to it, I do put like a long sleeve shirt on because it's kind of itchy, like too, when you rub against the leaves as well. But I do have a probably like a 10 foot trellis now, and I just let it grow, and it looks so beautiful during the summer months. It's almost acts as a privacy screen as well. And so yeah, I just had to get it out of the ground as much. And then I sent you several cuttings and roots to several people I know. They was like, I want to grow it. I want to grow it. I was like, I got it for you.
Mhm.
Be
Yeah.
warned though. That's what I tell.
Yes. Be warned. And yeah, so it's a very ornamental vine, and there's a golden version that's kind of like a chartreuse color leaf that's really pretty. I'm not sure if the golden version you would use for culinary purposes though, but definitely the regular hops, you can collect the hops and make some bitters from those. And do you like some of the bitter flavors like hops?
I do. I mean, I like a bitterness anyway, and so if it's not bitter, it has to be hot. You
Mhm.
know? So yeah, I like the bitterness of it.
Mm.
Um,
And do you use, since you say you like hot, do you mean like hot peppers, like a fish pepper?
like a ghost pepper, a jalapeno pepper. I did recently had a beekeeping class, and so I wanted to get the press out to it. So I was like, I gotta get something to really get them in. So I made a drink called the Sting, which was just lemonade and jalapenos. And they
Oof.
was like, "We're coming, we coming just for the Sting," and, So when the news reporter showed up, I was like, "You gotta try this Sting," because that's how I got them there. And they was like, "This is really really good." Well, surprisingly, because it was a kid workshop, the kids really loved the spiciness of it. And I also taught a kids workshop. We were growing lettuce, and the lettuce that I had was arugula. So you know how arugula has a little spiciness to it, and
Mhm.
so when we did the demo with the kids and they got to play in the dirt, and I gave them lettuce seeds, they were all mad because they didn't get any of the arugula seeds. They got regular lettuce because the parents was like, we don't know if they want spiciness. And so yeah, that was crazy.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm surprised. Yeah, kids can have an adventurous palate sometimes, and they might, Sour Patch Kids are in. They like the really sour, like wood sorrel type
Yep.
flavors. They will chew on those leaves. If you give them to them, those lemony type. So I can see them liking a little bit of a kick in their lemonade.
Yeah. And I was really shocked. So yes.
Mm. Yeah, I've heard of hot peppers used like in tequila drinks
Oh yeah.
to counter those, but they're definitely not to my taste. That's a little bit much for me. I would be
Yeah.
like, your stomach is on fire after that.
Definitely on fire, but I like the hotness in the tequila and like I said, the lemonade. I do some margaritas with ghost pepper.
Wow.
Just a tag of ghost pepper and people seem to like it. Um
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, I could see they would like that one. And how about any with like cream or milk infusions in them? Do you do any with dairy?
With hot peppers and dairies?
No, just any cocktails or
Oh,
mocktails.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, coconut milk and
Mm.
and all of those same drinks like a lavender lemonade, and then you put a spin on it and you put a coconut milk in it to give it like a milky, almost like a shake type of thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I really like those as well. My favorite is passion fruit and coconut milk and mixing those 2 together, and
Mm.
then some rum in that, and that's really good.
Yeah, that sounds really good. That sounds
Yeah.
like almost like those Mai Tai drinks, but with a little bit of cream to it,
Mhm.
or
Yep.
pina colada type
Yeah,
things.
it's almost like a pina colada with a passion fruit in it, and then you have the rum, and then I make a simple syrup with the passion fruit as well, and then I keep it kind of seedy, and so I'll mix it with the seeds, and then put whipped cream and all that stuff on it. It's really really good. So I grow passion fruit too in the yard as well.
Hmm. Yeah, I would like to see the passion fruit tree. Those are not common in the Mid Atlantic area.
Yes, well, last year was my first time I got fruit. Um, and so I had to hand pollinate all of the blooms. But that
Mm,
was like a lesson for me. I wanted to, see how that goes. I did it and like 2 days later there was like fruit forming. I was like, wow, I did that.
mm. And speaking of locally grown fruits, have you tried anything with the pawpaw?
I haven't made a drink with pawpaw, but I have made pawpaw ice cream
Mm-hmm.
um with coconut milk again, and then pawpaw and a little bit of vanilla. Just 3 ingredients, and
Mm-hmm.
it came out really good.
Mm.
So I really like the taste of pawpaw because it already takes on that mango banana taste feeling. You just need a little sweetener, just a little bit.
Yeah, somebody I know had made a pawpaw slushies, and I think there was rum in the base. I can't recall which alcohol they used.
It would definitely have to be rum.
Yeah, I think that's what it was in there. And she sealed them in like those Mr. Freezy tubes.
Okay.
So she had a little homemaker thing that she could use and do these little plastic tubes and have them frozen. So that was an interesting way to have a drink on a hot summer day.
Yeah, that
Um,
sounds really good. I mean, I plan to go pawpaw hunting, sometime this year, and
mhm.
see what I can find and see what kind of recipes I can come with. I want to see if I can make that slushy now. You piqued my interest.
I'll see if we can find that recipe from her.
Mhm.
So let's talk about maybe some hot drinks, not as in hot and spicy, but served warm. Do you have any of those in your recipes?
Ooh, just like well, one, I do this hot apple pie smoothie, and people was like, "Hot apple pie smoothie?" Yeah. So that's just like green apples, oats, and a little bit of milk, and then you cook it down, and then you make it into a smoothie. But it's like nice and warm for the winter time. But my favorite is ginger, ginger, oranges, and lemons and honey together with a little bit of rum.
Hmm.
That's my go-to in the wintertime. With a little bit of cinnamon on top or a cinnamon stick.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like it's really healthy too, especially in the wintertime with all the colds and stuff.
Yes.
Interesting.
Mhm.
And so for the apple pie smoothie, you're doing like a steel cut oats or just
Yeah,
regular oats?
you can do steel oaks. I believe I did, I used steel oaks, and then, like, a couple apples, a couple cinnamon, and then some milk, and I put
Mhm.
it in I have one of those blenders that can make it hot when you do it, and so I put it in there, and it smoothed out really good. I put a little bit kale in there as well, and, yeah, it was really, really good. I took it to work, and I had folks try it, and they really liked it.
Hmm. I can imagine. They were probably asking for more. And so when we need to stay hydrated, especially this time of year out in the garden, I'm thinking about water infusions, like just something you add to water. And I like to do just a couple slices of cucumber, just the straight raw cucumber. Are there any water combinations that you like to do?
I definitely like the cucumber and water, but I add a piece of lemon um to that. I think one of my favorites is just like getting the berries, the strawberries and
Hmm.
the blueberries and blackberries and mixing those with water. And we talked about mojitos earlier. Um I have a strawberry mint and then take a couple pieces of strawberry mint and put that in the water as well. I really like that.
Hmm. And how do you keep them from getting too mushy? Because sometimes the strawberry can be like a kind of like, texture in there.
I just slice it once, slice it
Hmm.
in half, and just drop it in there.
Okay, the
Um,
whole fruit.
the whole fruit. Just
Hmm.
slice it enough so where the flavors can come out, but I don't like mush it down or anything like that.
Hmm. And then you mentioned strawberry mint. That does bring up there are so many types of mints out there, and I don't think a lot of people are aware of that. And it's really hard to get certain mints, certain flavors are hard to source. And mints are very hard to start from seed. So you really need just to get a cutting or a started plant from somebody else. So mint is often passed along. There's a specific type of mint that you might be looking for, like an orange mint, or I had this Kentucky mint that was specifically made for, their mint drinks, the mint juleps, and it was like a dark blue mint almost.
Oh wow.
So that one, I keep that in a separate pot because I don't ever want that to go away. I want that mint.
Oh yeah.
And I've only been able to source that in one place. I also have a variegated mint. It has like white striping to it. So it's really pretty mint, but it's got, your classic mint flavor to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big lover of mint. This strawberry mint came from a local nursery, and I was surprised when I saw it said strawberry, and I was like, okay, I'm getting this. And so it came back this year, and so I really love the strawberry mint. But I also do like a glass of water and basil in it, and I have my love of cinnamon um basil now, and that's really really good. So
Hmm.
glass of ice water, and a couple cinnamon basil leaves in it.
Yeah, that also is true. So much of the different flavors of basil. I love Mrs. Burns lemon basil. Do you know that variety?
Yes.
That one's very popular, and that's you probably wouldn't make a pesto with it, but great in a drink, just for a little bit of lemon basil flavor in there. And then there's Thai basil, the cinnamon basil you mentioned, holy basil, the tulsi. Do you make any drinks using the holy basil?
I love holy basil. That's one of my favorites, but I haven't made any drinks with that. Now the Thai basil I have just Thai basil and a little gin
Mm.
and ginger ale with it.
That would be a great combination with the ginger ale. Yeah, the holy basil or tulsi, I think it's definitely an acquired taste. Like I know it's made into a hot tea for healing purposes in India, but I'm not sure about the cocktail use of it.
Yeah, not cocktail. I would definitely make a tea with it. I do infuse it with oil and then, I'll take that as a teaspoon in the wintertime for health benefits, but never like made a drink with it.
I think because it's kind of more on the oregano end of the flavoring
Yeah.
than the mint end of the flavoring or the basil and the sweet end. And so you're like I don't know if people add honey to it. I would imagine something to sweeten it a little bit.
I don't know. When
Yeah.
you said oregano, I was like, oh no, I
Mm,
have some
yeah.
oregano drops that I take too, and I dread taking that in the wintertime because, but it's really good for you. And I was like, ooh,
Mhm. Well, sometimes you have to take your medicine. So any other favorite cocktails or mocktails that you're working on?
rosemary and grapefruit. And
Hmm.
so I did a taste test with my book just to see what might work, what might not work. And the rosemary grapefruit infused was one of the ones that people loved. Um, and it was the instead of infusing like the or making the fruit or the simple syrup, I'll always go with the herb first. So I made a rosemary simple syrup and then I infused it with grapefruit juice.
Hmm. Yeah, I can see that. And then maybe adding some sparkling
Yes.
to it. Yeah, I
Yes.
would say to lighten
Yeah.
it a little bit.
Yeah, lighten it a little bit, and
Yeah.
then, of course, put that cherry on top.
Hmm. See, I've got this jar of maraschino cherries right here. All right. So, how can our listeners contact you or find out more information?
For more information, they can go to my website, which is gardeningandbeats.com. I'm also on Instagram under Gardening and Beats. And then if you want to reach out to me by email, gardeningandbeats at gmail.com or info at gardeningandbeats.com.
Hmm. Super easy to find you on the internet.
Yes.
And we'll include those links in the show notes as well. And so, for our last few minutes together, I want to ask you a little bit about the other things you offer. So, you're working on you have the ebook of mocktails and cocktails, and you do garden coaching, and you said you're now helping with beekeeping classes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what else do you have planned for the future?
For the future, I am starting a nonprofit. It's going to be Melanated Earthlings Explorers, and basically that's going to be a whole farming and gardening workshops and classes and camps geared towards kids, younger kids, between the ages of 3 to maybe 15, and so that's what I'm working on now as well.
Three, you are very brave to have 3 year olds
Yes.
out in the garden, especially.
Well, a funny story before we get out of here. I did have a beekeeping class, and and so I worked by a daycare, and so the young lady was like, "Can I bring my daughter?" I was like, "Sure." And she was like, "It's 3 to 5 now." She was like, "Oh yeah, she's definitely 3," you know. And then that
Hmm.
happened when the press came out. They picked this young lady and her daughter. You know how kids are. They're truly real. She told the reporter she was 2 years old, and then I didn't see the article until it came out, and then it was like reading it. We talked to the youngest at the event, and she's 2 years old, and I was I texted her mom. I was like, "I'm gonna get you," but it was really cute to know that a 2 year old really wanted to be there and wasn't scared of the bees, and
Hmm.
so that was the whole goal.
Yep. And I can see there are some more mature 2 year olds out there that, can be more mature than some 3 year olds, I think.
Yes.
Hmm. Well, it's great that you're reaching out to work with the youth and introducing them to gardening and getting them used to being around bees because there are so many kids these days who, don't have any real contact with nature.
Yes. And so that's what the melanated Earthlings Explorer. If you listen to the name Earthlings Explorer, and that would be the nonprofit, you can kind of see this is going to be a nature based project. And so yeah, I'm really, really excited about that. Building this nonprofit up and helping young people explore the world of gardening and nature together.
Wonderful. Well, I wish you great success with that. Any final thoughts for our listeners?
Go make you a mocktail. Get you some lavender, and make you some lemonade and infuse the two together. Add your collagen. Oh, and then dye it purple with some sweet potato
Mm.
purple sweet potato flour. So that's how I kind of use. I dye some in my drinks, and I dye them with ingredients that come out the yard as well. So with the lavender lemonade to make it more purple, I'll take purple sweet potato and that I done cut up and chopped up, dehydrated, and grind it up into a powder, and use a little bit of that to tint it purple. Sometimes it come out hot pink, but if I do it right, it comes out purple.
Sounds beautiful either way.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Kimani.
Thank you so much. I really had a great time. Yeah, get out there and get a mocktail.
Shasta daisy plant profile. Shasta daisy, Leucanthemum cross superbum, is a perennial plant with a classic white daisy flower and yellow center. It was bred by American horticulturist Luther Burbank from the oxeye daisy, English field daisy, and Portuguese field daisy. He intended this hybrid to be an easy care plant combining the best traits of these three wild daisy species. It is named after the snowy Mount Shasta in Northern California. It is hardy to USDA zones 5 to 9 and blooms in spring and summer. If you deadhead the first set of the flowers when they start to fade, you can often get good reblooming into early fall. Plant it in full sun to part sun and in well-draining soils. Regularly fertilize it with compost or a slow-release pellet fertilizer. Note that it is a short-lived perennial, so will need replacing after a few years. You should divide the plant in the early springtime every couple of years to prolong the life of it. It is a good pollinator plant and also makes a sturdy cut flower. It is said to be deer and rabbit resistant. The many Shasta daisy cultivars available include those with double rows of flowers, pale yellow flowers, and shorter dwarf versions. Shasta daisy, you can grow that. What's new in the garden this week? Well, in my home garden, I'm experiencing a weird mid to late summer period of reblooming from some of my shrubs, and that includes the St. John's wort, Weigela, and some of the lilacs. So, it's an odd thing to happen, but not unwelcome. I'm enjoying those blooms. Over at the community garden, it is bustling along. It is that heat and rain we've been getting finally, so we are having prolific harvests. And my cucamelon has surfaced. The vine that I planted a few years ago has come back again, and I've supported it on a little trellis and hope to have little cucamelons to eat by the end of September. In the local gardening world, some events that you might want to attend include the annual Boxwood Symposium, and this is from September 21st to 22nd in Pottersville, New Jersey. You can go to the AmericanBoxwoodSociety.org website to find out more, to register. The fees range from 1 day only, $250, up to $500, depending on how many days and what you attend. That 2-day symposium is followed by the Sustainable Flowers Project 2023, a 3-day intensive hands-on and creative workshop with some of the biggest leaders in sustainable floristry today at Jardin du Bois in New Jersey, September 24th, 25th, and 26th. So some people might want to attend both the Boxwood Symposium and then stay for the Flowers Project. And if they stay for that second one, they'll need to go to prairiegirlflowers.com/workshop to find out more. Over at Longwood Gardens in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania, they're getting ready for their annual Chrysanthemum Festival. That takes place September 30th to November 12th. And that is from the tiny pom-pom little miniature mums all the way up to those giant big mums, and they're beautiful to see. It's quite an art form, and so you can go to longwoodgardens.org to pre-purchase your day pass and parking and tickets and everything, and be set for that. Happy gardening!
Get low-maintenance alternatives to lawns with the new book Ground Cover Revolution by Kathy Jentz. Reducing the lawn is among the biggest trends in homeownership, with an endless stream of homeowners looking for an eco-friendly alternative to a traditional, everyday grass lawn. In the last 3 years alone, over 23 million American adults converted part of the lawn to a natural landscape, and now are looking to do even more. The biggest challenge to adopting this new ideal of the perfect lawn is knowing how and when to replace your turf and which plants are the best ones for the job. Ground Cover Revolution is here with all the answers you need. Included are 40 in-depth profiles of plants that are perfect choices for replacing a grass lawn. There are options for sun, for shade, for dry and wet sites, and for various climates around the globe. There are choices that bloom, options that are evergreen, and selections that are deer-resistant. Author Kathy Jentz has also included an incredibly useful chart that gives you all the details on each of the 40 choices for quick reference and to make your ground cover selection process even easier. Whether you want to replace the entire lawn or just reduce the amount of land dedicated to turf, Ground Cover Revolution will help you usher in a new and improved idea of what a beautiful lawn should be. Available at bookstores now and also at Quarto.com, where you can get 30% off using discount code GARDENING30. In the new book, The Urban Garden by Kathy Jentz and Terry Spate, you'll find dozens of inspiring and creative ways to grow flowers, shrubs, vegetables, herbs, and other plants in small spaces and with a limited budget. Whether you want to grow on a balcony, rooftop, front stoop, or a tiny urban patio, turn your growing dreams into reality and build a gorgeous and unique garden that showcases your personal style while still being functional and productive. With the ingenious ideas and resourceful tactics found here, you'll be maximizing yields and beauty from every square inch of your space while also making a lush outdoor living area you'll crave spending time in. Whether you're growing edible plants or beautiful flowers, the 101 amazing growing ideas found in the Urban Garden will turn your tiny urban yard into a treasure trove of green you'll be proud to share with family and friends. Buy your copy today at your local retail bookseller or order it online now at Amazon.com or bookshop.org.
This is the last word on Grow Houseplants Anywhere by Teresa Watkins. Plants have always been on the move. Nearly 500 million years ago, plants moved out of the ocean and onto land. Since then, plants have been transported all over the world, from jungles and deserts, ships to farms, to our yards and homes, and even outer space. There are houseplants for every sunlight condition and living space. According to a 2002 research study from the Center for Health Systems and Design Colleges of Architecture and Medicine at Texas A&M University, indoor plants can help patients in hospitals heal faster. Adding houseplants to your life helps reduce stress and anxiety, control humidity, and cool the air. Houseplants can breathe life into offices, apartments, and patios. More good news is that houseplants provide the caretaker emotional health benefits that result in a positive outlook on life. Houseplants is a birthday, congratulations, or a welcome gift, or just because your you surprise can brighten the day. Indoor plants as a gift can help someone through a difficult situation. Yes, houseplants can do that. A brilliant move in these uncertain times. This is the last word on Grow Houseplants Anywhere. I'm Teresa Watkins, landscape designer and host of Better Lawns and Gardens, heard wherever you listen to podcasts.
Thank you for listening to GardenDC. You can become a listener supporter for as little as 99 cents a month by going to anchor.fm/GardenDC/support. Another way to support this podcast is to subscribe to our monthly digital publication, Washington Gardener Magazine. To do so, go to washingtongardener.com. Thank you. You can find Washington Gardener online at washingtongardener.com, on Twitter at WDC Gardener, on Instagram at WDC Gardener, and on Facebook.com at Washington Gardener Magazine.